Well, I keep getting asked, what sites do you recommend, Scotty? What do you like? What do you use and why? Now, I'm not going to sit and tell you these sites are going to be for everybody right off the rip, especially if you're a novice. I'm not going to recommend these. For one, they cost a good bit of money, and two, they got a lot of technology in them that you're probably not going to need and could confuse you as soon as you get out there and start shooting with them. But if you're somebody that's been shooting for a hot minute and you're looking to upgrade your gear and possibly upgrade your shooting performance, then you might want to take a closer look at the Dialed Proof and the Spot Hogg Triple Stack Boonie. We'll start off with the Boonie first. This is a site that I've been shooting for since they came out in January. Now, I went with their triple stack configuration, which is a housing that's available on any of their sites pretty much. And I've been shooting it for a long time, and I'm about to tell you why I really like this pin configuration. I don't know how well y'all can see that in the camera right there, but if you can tell, there's 3 pins. I shoot them in a 10-1000s because my eyes allow me to. And with the 10-1000s pin at a further distance, I'm no longer covering up the target and just trying to hit the target. With a 10-1000, with my vision and most other people's vision, you're still aiming at a dot on the target, and that goes back to the old saying, aim small, miss small. The reason I like the vertical pin configuration is strictly because it keeps everything centered and down the middle. Anytime I'm aiming at an animal, and if I can't see half of its body, that's not good. Now, I know a lot of people really like the horizontal pin configuration, and that's fine. If that works for you, keep shooting it. But for me personally, when I draw back on a critter, and if I can't see his head or his butt, then that's a problem for me, because I want to be able to see what that animal's doing while I'm at full draw. Because there has been a couple times when I've shot a horizontal pin configuration. If the animal's head is on the right, I'm a right-handed shooter, well, it really doesn't matter. I draw back, and now I cannot see the animal's head very clearly because I got those posts coming out from the side of the housing. With this style pin configuration right here, I'm able to stay right down the middle. I can see his butt, I can see his nose. I know what the animal's doing at all times before I take my shot. Once again, you can get this sight with different pin configurations. You can get it in, obviously, the one I have here. You can get it in a double pin, a single pin, the 3-pin horizontal, 5-pin horizontal. I think you can even get a 7-pin horizontal, which, god dang. The first thing I like about the Boonie is they upgraded from that little lever post that was up underneath the bar to a knob that's on the side. So once you break it free, boom, you can dial it to whatever yardage you want. That wasn't very steady. This is a little tight. There we go. You can dial it to whatever yardage you want. And then once you set it, lock that knob forward, it's not going anywhere. So being a 3-pin sight, it makes sense to have 3 different indicators for each individual pin. Your top indicator is going to be for your top pin, your second indicator, second pin, so on and so forth. Here's where Spot Hogg kind of takes the cake as far as this pin configuration in particular and what it's capable of versus other 3-pin vertical configurations. If you've ever shot a Spot Hogg or most other sights out there, typically you want to pick a dominant pin whenever you got a multi-pin configuration for any yardage you want to shoot. So if you range a critter at 23 yards, you're probably going to use that dominant pin instead of shooting the gap, dial it at 23 yards and shoot. Well, with the triple stack Boonie, I always use my top pin as my dominant pin. So whenever I do my calibration process, which is 20 and 60, and then it tells me which sight tape to put on there, I put the sight tape on, I dial it back up to 20, and just make sure everything's good at all different yardages using just that top dominant pin. Then I want to see where my second pin is going to be hitting. So I will step back to 30, shoot my second pin, and see where it's hitting. If it's hitting high, I actually have the option to break free this second pin and raise it or lower it depending on where I hit on the target. Same thing with my bottom pin. I'm going to step back to 40 and see where it hits. If it hits high, I'm going to bring the pin higher. If it hits low, I'm going to bring the pin lower. No other 3-pin vertical configuration sight company has that ability, or that patent potentially. So what that means for the shooter, and this is so critical for a bow hunter especially, is when you've already got your calibration tape set, your top pin's hitting fine, and you want your second pin set at 30, well, it hits at 36 instead of 30. Well, then you can adjust it to 30 yards to make it true. And then same thing with your bottom pin. Like, I'm just going off of how I set mine. So when I'm dialed up to the top with my dominant pin being at 20 yards, I want my second pin at 30 and my third pin at 40. There's 2 things that Spot Hogg did to make this extremely user-friendly in order to get the sight tape on. Used to, you had to take out each one of these little indicators, which was a pain. If you're like me, there's a bunch of them in your yard that you can't find, in order to put the sight tape on. Now, you've got 2 options. My favorite option is actually to loosen this Allen key right here, and this whole bridge folds back to where I can get in there, put the sight tape on, and then fold it back over to where it needs to be. Or if you don't want to do that, you can actually take this whole knob off by loosening, well, not loosening, but taking out this Allen key and this Allen key, and the whole knob will pop off. Put your sight tape on, put the knob back on, put your Allen keys back in there, and boom, you're ready to start finishing up your sighting process. Next up, we're going to talk about the brand new, maybe 3-month old, as far as being out on the market, Dialed Proof. I had the Dialed Arxos for a little while last year, and I loved the concept of that sight, but I didn't like how not user-friendly it was. Now, when I say not user-friendly, it was very hard for me to recommend it to somebody who had not been shooting for many years and had had similar sights in the past, because once you got it sighted in, it was a phenomenal sight, but it was just getting to that point, messing with the axis, the tapes, and all that good jazz that took a little bit of time, and also it took a consistent shooter in order to get it right as well. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a consistent shooter in order to get this bad boy dialed in. Ha, see what I did there? Dialed. That was stupid. But it would definitely freaking help. The reason I bring that up is I should have mentioned in the beginning of the video, the more consistent of a shooter you are, the more consistent of a sight tape you're going to get. Anyways, back to the sight in general. So basically, they took every complaint I had about the Arxos, not saying they took that to the bank, but they listened to everybody who obviously had the same complaints as me, and they fixed it. And let me show you what they fixed, what they left, and what you're getting for your money. Just like the Spot Hogg, I went in the 3-pin configuration vertical in the 10-1 thou. No, like I was talking about earlier, you cannot adjust these pins. Now, keep in mind, Dialed is known for giving you the most distance out of your shot. That's why you see a lot of Western guys running this sight and a lot of tack shooters like myself running this sight. I'll give you a perfect example of how much distance you're going to get out of your shot. I've got this on my, well, not right now, obviously it's in my hand, but I took this off my prime with a hunting arrow, which was like 460 grains, 470 grains, something like that. Once I did my calibration and then stepped back with my second pin to see where I was hitting, it was at 35 yards. Now I can't adjust that, but that's a good bit of distance / pin gap between my first pin and my second pin. And then my third pin ended up being about 46 yards. Probably one of my favorite features is this little housing right here that you can slide forward and backwards in order to eliminate or add daylight to your pins. I've actually had this happen to me at tack events where I'll be shooting over 100 yards and the sun will come out, and if you don't have some kind of shade device like this on your fibers to limit the amount of daylight that hits those fibers, your pins are going to blow up. It doesn't matter how small they are. I mean, a fiber is going to do what a fiber is going to do. The more light you give it, the more it's going to. I don't know how well y'all can see that, but with this little ordeal right here, I've got the sunshade wide open, so it's letting as much light as my basement allows to the fibers. And then when I slowly push it forward, it should make the pin smaller if y'all can see it. I promise it did make the pin smaller, but I don't know if y'all can see that or not. But oh well, take my word for it. Or don't, I don't care. Something that's really nice about this sight is it comes with dual sight tape bars on both sides. So what that allows you to do as a shooter, if this is mounted to the bow and you can't move your head to the outside due to being too close to a critter, you have the option to have it on the inside, which is where I went ahead and put mine because I want to eliminate as much movement as possible in a tree stand. And of course, you don't have to use both sight tape rings. You can just use one like I got right now, but eventually I'll have both just because I can. It is micro adjust windage right here on the front, which I'm not going to mess with it because it's still sighted in and I want to go hunting this week. And just like the other side I just showed you, it does have the first, second, and third axis adjustment. Something that a lot of people complained about with the Arxos series was that anytime you slid this bar down to give yourself some more mass gain adjustment, you had to reset your second axis every time. You don't have to do that on this sight anymore. Something else they upgraded about this sight is this nice little lever right here, which is pretty convenient. You just take your finger, yank it up, and you can dial it to whatever yardage you want. And once you set your yardage, you slide it down. That's pretty slick. Now, once again, going back to the whole distance ordeal, if you notice, and it's very hard not to notice compared to other sights on the market, their bar is actually at an angle. So the whole reasoning behind this design right here and how it's angled is because obviously when you dial it, it's going to get closer and closer to you as the shooter. Now, what a lot of people don't know is the closer you set your sight to you, the further out you're actually going to be able to shoot. So Dialed took that and ran with it and just came up with a sight to where the further out you shoot, the closer it's going to get to you, which is going to give you more distance. One of the traits that both these sights share is that they're actually both modular. So if you see, I've got them both set up as a Picatinny mount option right now. You can actually switch them from a Picatinny to a dovetail to direct mount and all kinds of different options based off what your bow accepts. Once again, if you're somebody that shoots a lot and has been shooting for a lot and you're very familiar with your equipment and you're not overly happy with the performance you're getting out of your sight, you may want to take a look at one or both of these to see if they might fit your criteria. I'll be perfectly honest with you guys, you really can't go wrong with either one of these sights. It's just a matter of what you want performance-wise out of a bow sight. I'm always going to be hunting with one or the other of these, just because, like I said in the title of this video, these are two of my favorites. I'm excited to see what they do later on down the road, but as of right now, I'm extremely happy with both these products.